Sarah Craig, welcome to the Passion Project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, just to start it off, a lot of people know you as Say. Sarah, Say. Yeah, if you look at your Instagram feeds, there's you have a whole bunch of different ways that different names they call you, but we'll stick with Sarah or Say today. Cool?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Listen, I really appreciate you taking the time to come down. We had a little chat over the weekend, and I'm super stoked to have you here. And again, what we've talked about is we're just going to connect the dots, because I think that a lot of people know a part of your story, and it's a story worth knowing if they don't. But I'm always curious, what got you here into this world that you're in? How did that start? Where did that start? What were the influences, and what's been the motivation? Because you do some really cool, really important stuff, and that's what we're gonna talk about today. Is that cool?
That's cool. Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen. So, if you're in the paddling community, I always kind of preface this saying this is not a paddle podcast, but we always oftentimes we talk about it because we end up having really cool, impressive people that happen to paddle as a hobby or at a hammer level, and you're in that world. But it is not. Paddling's part of it, and I think for you, it's just part of your story, and we will talk about that as one chapter, but there's a bunch of other stuff, and there's stuff in there that's super interesting and, again, inspiring and really cool. So without telling everybody what you do, thanks for what you do, and then we'll get into it. Okay? Cool. I think kind of where we're going to go today is we'll talk about your path, where you started and how you got to where we are today. And within that, it's going to be paddling, and there's going to be some trash talk in there. Better be some trash talk in there, and your focus on that, which is rad. And then we'll just rock and roll. Is that cool?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Okay. Well, listen, so I kind of started it. And we're going to start very simply here. Sarah Craig, but you go by Say for a lot of people. Where'd that come from?
I had a identity crisis all through elementary school. Everyone's name was Sarah. When I was born, Sarah was the most popular name, one of the most. It was Sarah and Katie. So I was Sarah C, there was Sarah A, there were many Sarahs. And I was like, I'm different. And so I was like, I'm Sarah, because my dad and my brother when I was little would call me Say, because my brother couldn't say Sarah, so he'd say Saya.
Gotcha.
And then it was Say, so.
It's good, because I was Mark. There was 87 Marks in my elementary school, so
yeah.
and I still have a lot of friends named Mark. It's not a common name for kids anymore. They kind of threw it out. I think it was overused in the 70s.
Yeah, well, Sarah's now a grandma name. It was a kid name. Now
You're not a grandma, so that's
good.
I
could be.
Well, I think you would know, though.
I would know, but my age, I could be.
No, because that would make me a great grandfather. Excuse me. All right, so that was from your family. That's cool. Yeah. It's interesting, and just thinking about how to tee this up, I was scouring around a little bit, just trying to get, because again, I know a bit about you, but there's a bunch I didn't, excuse me. And so I really wanted to kind of be prepared and have some interesting stories. But I found two different bios that one I'm pretty sure you put together that's part of the Trash Tramp, which I almost didn't want to say that, but that's something we will talk about. But it's really well done. It's not your typical bio. So I'm guessing you wrote, it's almost like a creative writing piece. It was really, really cool. And then there was another one, which is on the Puakea Ambassador website. And there's just a couple things. And I think this frames, I found these really interesting. So I'm just going to read a couple of the quotes that come out of those two bios because I thought they were really cool. You're like, I've always been all over the place with hobbies. I've always had a camera. I've always been making videos. I love to dance and sing. I see rainbows everywhere. I love that one. I'm sweet and sad, but mostly happy. I want to know more about that one.
That's true.
And then you went on to say, I was voted the most likely to save the rainforests in high school. I think you're working towards that. You said, I'm a vegetarian. I turned vegetarian at 14 and a janitor at 14. A vegetarian at 12 and a janitor at 14.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are going to claim probably either of those, but even more so, a janitor at 14.
Yeah.
And then
it's a great job.
We'll find out some more about that. And then you said, later on, she learned that convenience is taking over the beach. And I think that one is really telling about your passion for the environment and trash and stuff, and we'll definitely dig into that. So, but I love that. I thought it was so cool and just great little snippets of who you are that we will, I'm sure, touch on as we go through this.
That's nice of you to go through and read those. Like, I did have fun writing them, and my parents are writers, and so that was a big thing growing up, is that they care about what we write. And
well, is it safe to say that it sounds like you're I would call it a creative, between what you've done for profession, the way you write? I'm jumping ahead, but it seems like, just in getting to know you a little bit more, like you seem very artistic minded. Is that safe to say?
I think I'm artistic minded. I just don't know where to throw it. So yeah.
Well, you're definitely doing some stuff using your hands, and we'll get to that. So let's talk about where you grew up. You talked a little bit about your parents being writers. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Eugene, Oregon.
Gosh, I know a little bit about that place
now.
You
do? Yeah. My mom was a professor. She was the chair of the dance department at the University of Oregon for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
So that was a big part of my upbringing, was take your daughter to work day, went with mom, went to campus, and then I ended up going to university myself and studying dance there too. And so I actually got to take some classes from my mom.
Oh, wow, that's super neat.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was so much fun. And then, like, being able to go from class to class and then pop over to my mom's office, and then we'd walk sometimes together places. I'd walk her to her car at the end of the day, So that's
really neat. I always wonder about people that work with their parents, because I worked with my parents. I know you weren't working with, but to be a student at a school, or it's either really good or really hard, or maybe somewhere in between, or maybe both. But that sounds like it's really good. And it sounds like you kind of fell off the parents' tree between the writing, that you went on and followed down dance like your mom at UO.
Yeah.
Super neat.
I fell off the parent tree.
I definitely fell off the parent tree, different pieces of it for sure.
Yeah.
I think we all do to some degree,
Yeah,
whether we
can't
recognize
avoid
it. I denied it for decades, and then now I look back, I'm like, man, I really did.
Yeah.
So, but UO, so my two older kids, as we talked about, are both Ducks at University of Oregon. And so I've been up there a lot. I love that campus. Eugene's interesting. It's changed, I think, a lot, and you could tell us more about that. But the campus and the sports focus, and I mean, it's Nike University. And if you're an athlete, it may not have the best teams in every regard, but the facilities are second to none. I mean, It's staggering. And then I think, did you used to be a runner? I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah. I ran track in high school, and my dad was my coach. And,
oh my gosh.
Well, for a while, and then we had different coaches in high school. My dad was my coach in middle school because he did hurdles, and so that was fun. And then when I went to college, I didn't do track in college, but I coached middle school hurdles when I was in college, so that was really fun.
Well, I had a period of time that I was a runner, and mostly long distance stuff. But one of my favorite places to run in the world is Priest Trail, right there on off the campus, right there along the river in Eugene. It's stunning. Yeah. What a cool spot.
Yeah,
what a great place to grow up. What was it like growing up there?
I mean, it was nice. It was a place that I loved, but I was like always looking forward to kind of going to California, going back, because I was born in Sherman Oaks. So we moved to Oregon when I was little. And I always, when I was in Oregon growing up in Eugene, I was the Valley girl from California. But then when I came to California, I was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm an Oregon girl, But it was fun. It's a smallish town. It's a big, small town. The campus was a big part of my life growing up. Sports were really important. It felt like a safe town, I mean, I liked it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now looking back though, there's a lot that I learned when I left. When I went to college there, I learned that it was a different town for people depending on their skin color. For the athletes, it was hard. I think that they've done a lot to change that in the environment there, but once you step off campus, they were having a different experience, and I didn't know that until I went to college, because I wouldn't have experienced that as a white person. So that was hard.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I can see how that would be one of those things that you don't know unless you know, right? Unless you experience it. And so you grew up there, but you were born down here, and you always had a draw, like a pull, to get back down here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so we're jumping over. But you did. What were the sports you played in high school? You played.
I did soccer and track. Those were my main Those are my main sports.
And have you always been, like, has athletics always been a big part of your life?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was athletics, whether it's sports or dance, and just, playing in the water in Oregon, paddling any craft. Like, it wasn't, I didn't know outrigger then, but I paddled anything else.
Oh, really? So you always had that bug for paddling,
yeah.
even as a kid up there on whatever. Interesting.
Yeah, old docks.
Old docks. Well, we'll talk a little bit about old docks. Can you talk a bit about being a janitor at 14?
Yeah. So I think that's the legal age you can start working. That's why I put that. But like one of
so
my,
you're
like,
9, really,
the
right?
first, right, no. The first legit job that I had was all of my friends in middle school were going to the Eugene Swim and Tennis Club, which is a fancy club in Eugene. And my parents, we weren't members or anything. And I asked my parents if we could become members so I could go hang out. And they were like, why don't you just get a job there? And I was like, oh yeah, okay. And then it was either a lifeguard or janitor. And I was like, lifeguard seems kind of like just sit around. So I was like, I want to do stuff. And so I got on the janitorial staff, and it was basically janitorial and maintenance. And so like I was driving the lawnmower, I was like fixing things, like fences, nothing like, no machines, but, and then cleaning the tennis courts, the bathrooms, but cleaning up after the people that were, could afford to be there.
So have you ever reflected on that? Because again, we're going to get to, you're still doing that.
Yeah, right.
You're still cleaning up after people. But I'm going to say this. I think that if you solicited 100 kids, hey, you're going to get a job at this club, and you can either be a lifeguard or a janitor, you're going to get 99% of those kids are going to pick the lifeguard. I would assume.
Yeah.
I can sit and do nothing. I can see all the girls or all the guys. I can be in the mix, or I can go drive I can do the lawnmower. I can clean the toilets.
Yeah, the toilets were bad though.
But and yet, how long did you do that for?
I did it until, I think, all the way through high school. I must have stopped I had to stop freshman year in college, right as I was going into college, because they were transitioning their whole system.
But like 5+ years you stayed on in that capacity.
Yeah, and it wasn't full time, obviously, because I was a kid, but it was, I'd get up at 4 in the morning to go, sweep the courts and do the bathrooms before everything opened. And then go off to school or whatever else I had to do. And
was this under duress, or was this all your choice? Like, did you need to go work at 4 in the morning, or did you need to do what you were doing, or did you
like for survival?
Yeah, or versus did you enjoy it and that's why you kept doing it, or somewhere in between?
I think there was a sense of I was being taught to have a job from my parents. They were like, this is good for you to have a job, but they would have taken care of me if I didn't have a job. So in that sense, it wasn't for survival. It was so I could hang out with my friends.
Now, but when you're the janitor, are you able to, did you get to hang out there on your spare time because you were an employee there? Is that how that worked?
Yeah, so I didn't hang out while I was working. I was a good worker.
Got it. Yeah, I'm guessing your work ethic hasn't changed much. I mean, if you're willing to get up at 4 in the morning as a 14-year-old to go work at a club as a janitor, you were born with a work ethic, and it probably doesn't fade.
Yeah, no,
right?
It doesn't.
And again, I don't want to keep saying, hey, what are you going to get to it? But like, if anybody follows you on social media and you have a great social media account and really good content,
thanks.
There's a lot of you doing a lot of work. And I saw you this last weekend. You were doing a lot of work, but it looks like that's your happy place. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, to an extent, it's like labor is labor. Obviously, you need a break and stuff. But yeah, it makes me feel good to do things that I think are necessary.
And important.
Yeah, but I also do like working hard, like the feeling of working hard. That's why I like paddling. It's energy used as for good. It's like for your body, for your health,
Hallelujah.
For the environment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So if you reflect on, because I do this sometimes, I'm like, I really haven't changed. Like, I was doing this little different jobs, but I was doing the same thing. I was getting up at 4:30 and going for bike rides and working when I was 13 and da-da-da-da. I really haven't changed that much in that regard. Do you see that? Like, has that been a constant to some degree? Your work ethic, your willingness to or desire to get up early and always be busy and doing good things, has that been consistent?
Yeah, I never had a desire to get up early.
Oh.
So that was always really hard for me.
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Although it's the best time to be up. Once I'm up, I'm like, this is amazing. But yeah. But no, I feel like I feel like I am just consistently me. I don't know how else. Everyone changes and grows, and I know that I've definitely had some ups and downs, and but I think I've been the work ethic in me, and it's just consistent.
That's good. Hey, that's cool. Now, you also said that you went vegetarian when you were 12. Are you still vegetarian? Did that stick around for a while?
I'm a pescatarian.
Got it.
Yeah.
So am I.
Yeah.
So is my wife. Gotcha.
Yeah. And but yeah, when I was 12. Sorry about the.
No worries. What was the motivation to go vegetarian or be pescatarian? Is it moral? Is it health? Is it environmental?
Yeah.
What about maybe at that time when
Yeah.
you were like, I'm 12, Mom and Dad, I'm not eating hamburgers anymore. Like,
I mean, I think my parents will agree. It was moral. It was for the environment, because I just learned real fast about like where the animals were coming from and what that was. And then in Oregon, people hunt, and like I knew people who did bow hunting and stuff and fishing, and I didn't do any of that. And so for me, it felt like a little weird that I was going to the grocery store and just picking up a life off the shelf. And so maybe I've glorified that a little bit as I've gotten older, but I do remember as a kid reading these things and being like, how is this what we're doing? And I remember something about a bunny and how I was like, bunnies are so cute. Why would we want to eat them? Not that we eat bunnies, but so yeah, so it was that when I was 12, and then it continued, and I learned more and more. And I had friends in high school, boys that would try to put meat in like my food and stuff to see like, is she gonna get sick? So that was like an interesting thing, because a vegetarian in Eugene, Oregon at that time was kind of rare. I think they were like, "Oh, what is this?"
You can drive 10 minutes outside of town and you're in ranch land,
right,
and farmland, right? So a lot of it is probably very local, but at the same time, now, again, we'll connect the dots later. But you're doing a good job. Like you can see this focus on the environment and morality and such. That really hasn't changed as far as I can tell. So you were at UO. Did you graduate from University of Oregon? And you said you were doing dance, but
yeah, I got a women and gender studies major, and then business and dance minors.
Ooh, interesting. Did you have a goal? Like, those are interesting majors, and I would have the same conversation with mine reflectively. Like, what am I really going to do with these when I graduate? I loved what I did. I loved studying, like learning what I did, but wasn't a super great path, perhaps.
Yeah.
Did you have a path that you were looking to follow with those types of degrees?
I didn't know what I was going to do with them. I just knew I wanted the most broad range education that I could get, and I thought that women and gender studies and business were on either ends of each other. And I thought that would be helpful. And I also you see my necklace.
What's it say? Just so.
It says feminist. And I was a little girl. I have 3 older brothers, and I was a little girl that was around like dudes that were awesome and strong, and they got to do the things that they wanted to do because of their physical capabilities and stuff. And I was always trying to keep up. And I was like, I'm a girl, but I can hang. I can do all these things. So it's just like an early onset feminism.
And that's been another thing that's been consistent. So that started, I think even in that same bio, you said something about it that, did you recognize that in yourself when you were that young?
Yeah, I think so. My mom was kind of politically active. Like, she's always been very aware of politics. She's really super smart and on everything. And so I think I probably got that originally from her. Like I don't know if she did marches. Like sometimes there's marches. Like Take Back the Night marches were a thing when I was in college. And that was a women's march then, right? But it was because there's rapes and assaults on campus, and that happens. And Take Back the Night means kind of like women marching at night to kind of be like, this is our space also. And so I was acutely aware of all that stuff growing up. And so without being like too victimized, I was like, I'm here in this space, and I understand that I should be
empowered.
Yeah, I should be a strong person, and I should march. I should do the
Good for
things.
you.
And so I was like, I've only been wearing for like the last 5 or 6 years or something. But yeah, I've always been like a feminist and being like, let me tell you the definition of it so you don't think that I'm a man hater, you know, like it's just the belief that men and women are equal. So
hallelujah. I think that's great. And I think it's great that you rock it. I noticed it when we were together over the weekend on the island. So you graduate with a super diverse, degree in, you've got women's studies, women and gender studies, business, and dance. Where'd you go with that?
You do a good job of listening.
Just my job.
I know it. I'm like, that's good. Okay. Where did I go with that?
Yeah. Did that direct you towards a career, or did
Straight
you
to
totally
the trash?
All right.
Where did I go with that? Well, I don't know. I guess I thought maybe that would be like a social. I would do something with social services. Because I always have thought that I should do something for people and give back in some way. But I didn't. Yeah, I moved to LA and I just did like the opposite and just went and worked on set and got into production, which I guess production provides a service for people too. You know, it's a creativity and but it's not social service. So it wasn't. No, and in production, not everyone has a college degree either. You don't need that. So I just got an education because I was paying for it myself, and I was like, it better be what I want to learn about.
So you paid for college yourself?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. My grandparents probably, I think, gave us like a couple $1,000s or something, each of the grandchildren, and then I took out loans and got some scholarships and was in debt, and
fun, but well done, good for you.
Thank you.
But how did you pivot from that career? You had said that you wanted to move back to California. It sounds like you always had or maybe you still do, one foot in California, one in Oregon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you moved down right after you graduate. You moved to LA.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, I waited a year. Yeah, I waited a year. I was in a dance company at the University of Oregon for my senior year in college, and then the year after that. And I stuck around. I was waiting tables and dancing, and then I was like, okay. Then I moved. Then one of my brothers had a little baby, and I was like, well, this is my excuse to go and live with them and stay with them. That was in Malibu. So I stayed in Malibu for a little bit. Yeah.
Awesome. Real quick before we move all the way through, what kind of dance were you doing?
At the University of Oregon at the time, if you're a minor or major, you kind of have to pick your specialty, and so it was either you either specialize in ballet or you specialize in modern, and then you can kind of branch off from there. And I felt I was more like a modern person. I'm not elegant and pointy like a ballerina, you know. So modern was kind of my flow, and also my mom was a modern dancer, although she did ballet too. But so I kind of went in that direction, and then the dance company I was in was called Dance Africa. It was an African dance company.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was amazing. It was like it sold out. Every concert that we had there would sell out at the University of Oregon. People came for that. You know, we have people visiting from different parts of Africa, and they'd come here and they would teach us their dance, and it would be one week. We have a repertoire that we already know, so we have like 6 dances throughout the years because they had been doing it for I feel like maybe 20 years or something, and my mom was a big part in that before I started dancing. But so you do, you have say 6 dances that you've already learned from past people coming to visit, and then we have one person come for that specific event, and the company would learn that dance that week, and then and that's the finale of the show.
So my suspicion is that there's even though you don't have a degree in cultural studies, when you're dancing with an African-focused dance group, you've got to be, and you have people coming in, you're getting a whole cultural thing there as well, right? Yeah. I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Because they perform with us, you know, and they educate us about the dance. What does the dance mean? What are you doing? Why? What is the purpose of this dance? You know, some of them are you're working in the field, you're holding your baby, you know, you're putting the seeds out, you know, or, you know, this is a war dance, or, you know, there's each dance, I mean, Africa's huge, so, you know, depending on where it's coming from.
Yeah, it's a long way from the other side, which is ballet, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Modern is very different.
That was my jam. I was grounded earth. I love hip hop, you know, all that stuff. So
see, people, you thought you knew Say Craig, but this is why we do this. This is exactly who knew? I love this. This is great. Thanks for sharing all that. So, but you get to LA and you end up in media. Did you try to get into media, right? Or into, what do you call it? Yeah, it's like film, media.
Yeah, film, TV. Yeah.
Film and TV.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, my brother was producing like a commercial. Actually, I think it was like a beer commercial. And he was like, do you want a PA? And I was looking for a job. I was waiting tables out here. And I kind of thought when I came out here that I was going to dance or do something. And then I was like, no. So I was a PA. And
that's what, production assistant?
Yeah,
okay,
production
got
assistant.
It.
Yeah, on set. And so the toilet thing, the janitor thing came up because that job, I was getting paid $50 a day for, it was like a 14-hour day, right? So that's not even like really, that's not even like minimum wage. And at the end of the day, they were like, we need someone to clean the toilets. And I just like backed away because I was like, I'm not getting paid enough to clean these toilets. Sorry. Like I was like in any other
ship has sailed.
Yeah, right? I was like, I was definitely getting paid more in Eugene, Oregon to clean toilets.
As a 14-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. But I helped. I didn't take ownership over those toilets.
But you went on. I mean, so tell us about that, about being in that world and being in production. I mean, mostly commercials is what I think.
Yeah. Well, I really I grew up watching MTV with my brother, and like my brother's a musician, and his band is Like Years, and they're awesome. But he and I would every day after school would watch MTV music videos. And so I kind of like had this dream of making music videos. Like that was like the jam. And then, by the time I got to LA, music videos were kind of on their out. I mean, we hadn't really started with YouTube and stuff like that, but it was a lot of like low budget jobs were music videos. So then it was commercials. But I definitely did my share of music videos. So I worked my way from a PA, doing stuff, and then you work your way up, and then production supervisor and producer for a couple movies, and
wow.
And now I'm just kind of like I'm a production supervisor for commercials. That's kind of where I'm hovering at right now. Yeah.
And is that especially with like everything that's been going on in Hollywood and everything, is that impacted, like when there's strikes in Hollywood, does that impact your job?
Yeah, it does. Because my position is just now becoming unionized because during COVID there was some reactions. A lot of stuff happened, but there were people who were just kind of fed up with the way that production was being treated because we're not in a union, so we work all the time, overtime, with no pay of overtime. And so a couple really strong women in New York walked off set, and then they've been sort of unionizing our area for a few years now, and it finally happened. But even before that, so my job is to look out for the other crew, the union crew, right? And so I have to know the union rules and protect those crew. So I work with people who are in the union regardless of whether I'm in the union or not. So yeah, the strikes I mean, we're all in solidarity. I mean, it's like, the crew's together, whether they're different unions too, right? So whether one's striking, it's rare to have people be like not.
Got it. Interesting. And so what is a week in the life of you when it comes to your profession? I mean, are you spending a lot of time in LA and Hollywood doing this stuff, or is it more piecemeal? How does that work? I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, so the commercials are short pieces, and that's kind of why I went down that route, because I started paddling like 10 years ago, and before that I was like work all the time, nothing else to do, I just want to work, but commercials allow you to have a job, and then it's like a month on, and then you like have a break and you can do laundry and take care of your life, and then you go another month, and then that seemed to fit with paddling too. I could work enough, and then be able to paddle a little bit and then work and then paddle. But people who work on TV shows and stuff, they're nonstop.
It's like the people that I know, it's like all or nothing.
Yeah.
And it's full blown on, and then they might be off for a while, and then they're like, is there another job coming? I'm not sure. I sure hope so. Like, it seems a little more volatile and a little bit, I mean, I think acting is probably the same way. Like, I'm the best in the world, but am I going to get another job? Like, It seems very tenuous and kind of sketchy. Like,
yeah, it is. It's nervous. I think the majority of people working are always like, when's the next job?
Yeah,
so you're right.
That's got to be a hard one. You have your own little film company too, don't you?
Yeah.
Is it little?
Yeah, Sarah Films. Yeah, it's little. It's me. It was my response to like, I mean, Trash Tramp and Sarah Films started through the pandemic, and so Oh, that's not true. I started K Sarah Sarah Films. I started writing that down and like putting it in my videos kind of as a joke to begin with, because K Sarah Sarah is like whatever will be. And so for me, I thought K Sarah Sarah meant whatever Sarah, like, what are you doing? Like, so I was kind of making fun of myself, and then it just
Turned
stuck.
it into something real?
Yeah, I just liked it.
And so
I
what do you
kept it.
do within that? Like I mean, are you producing much within that, or is it like, what is K Sarah Sarah?
It's mostly like when I make the Pool K Designs videos, and then I've done a handful of other like small stuff, but it's mostly like the social media stuff that I'm working on, which I like to make videos for.
Yeah, you do, and you do a lot. And again, at the end, we'll share where to find all your stuff and see it all, because there's quite a bit. And you've just touched on a couple of paddling topics, and I've pressed pause on those for a minute because we'll get to the whole paddling thing in a minute as well. But I wanted to kind of wrap it around. So we've talked about Oregon and migrating down here. You've brought up how paddling. We'll talk more about that. The media and production career, and then today, and you mentioned that you're pescatarian. I was just wondering where the things that you shared when you were a 12 and 14-year-old. You're not a janitor anymore. But you
Am
do
I?
like to work hard. Actually, you're probably more of a janitor now than you ever were. We're going to get there in just a moment as well. Well, let's do that. Let's go straight to trash talk. Okay. Trash talk with Sarah. This is where most people, probably in the paddling world, but I think there's probably a lot of other people, probably in the trash world, and I don't know that world, and I don't know if there's such a thing, but here's what I think shines a light on you. Like, as a paddler, like most of us on this side, on the paddling world, know of you from paddling and Trash Tramp. Trash Tramp, I think people are going to go, are you calling Sarah a trash tramp?
Yeah.
I'm going to stop here. Can you talk about your passion for trash and cleaning up trash and the environment, and then lead into what Trash Tramp is?
Yeah. Well, I do. The tramp thing is fun because people still come up to me, hey, it's the trash.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, you can say tramp. Trash tramp. I did it to myself.
But is it like if somebody said, oh, there's the trash tramp, is that okay?
Yeah.
Because it kind of sounds a little bit inverted from the feminist necklace that you're wearing.
No, but so yeah, I'm trying to reclaim tramp.
Oh.
Like, because tramp means to tramp or trample is to take footsteps, right? To put heavy footsteps on ground, which for me, the clearest way to explain it was that, I'm trying to help us paddlers lighten our footprint on the planet, and so trash tramp. But then, of course, tramp is reclaiming the word tramp.
Got it.
But yeah, so your question was the passion.
Let's start with,
yeah.
Because at this point, people don't know what you do with regard to cleaning up the environment.
Yeah.
So talk about why you're so passionate about it, and then talk about what you do, and that will probably lead us right into Trash Tramp.
Okay.
So why? What's your why with the environment and cleaning? And
the why is now because it's just obvious. It's just right in front of my face. Every time I paddle, there's trash. There's no way for me to look away. I think that there was a point where before I didn't see it as much. Like I've always been kind of like aware of trash, and I'd pick it up and stuff, but it never seemed like this overwhelming thing that was floating next to me. And then now it is. I mean, I went to Roatan. I went to Roatan. I just went to Roatan. That was awesome. Beautiful
those are
island.
both pretty good spots to be able to go.
Yeah,
Good
but
for
I
you.
went to Roatan like in 2019 or something, and it's a beautiful island. It's gorgeous. It's off the coast of Honduras, and it's surrounded by mangroves and reef. It's like super protected by like the waves and stuff. It's a nice, beautiful island, but there's just trash that washes up on shore there like all the time. I don't know if all the time. I'm not there all the time, but when I was there, and so I saw a lot of trash there. And it kind of just struck me like, wow, okay, this is different. Like, I feel like in Marina Del Rey, when I see the trash, it's like floating in our marina and stuff, and it's not kind of blanketing the beaches. But now it is. But so that was kind of an eye opener. And then while I was there, I got held up at gunpoint.
Hold on, what?
Yeah, yeah. This was like This is like the turning point.
How long
in my
ago was
head.
that?
So in 2000, I think it was 2019,
Holy
before
moly.
the pandemic. Yeah.
Wow.
I was training for Maui to Molokai, Molokai to Oahu with a super fast, wonderful paddler named Kari, and I was taking a break. I went on a trip to Roatan, and then I saw this beautiful island, and it was supposed to be a really safe space too. Like they actually said there was like low crime and stuff, but
High crime and high trash, turns out.
Yeah,
Huh?
no, it's still, I think, an anomaly. But that was hard for me because I don't know if anyone's else, who else has been held up at gunpoint, but it's like whether the one question I get a lot or got a lot afterwards was it loaded? And I'm like, does it matter? Like in reality, like
And how would you know anyway?
Well, right, exactly. It's like I may have grew up in Oregon, but I do not own guns, and it's like fine for protection if you know how to use them and stuff, but like I don't want one in my face,
No. Wow.
So I was held up at gunpoint, and it was, it was a boy that lived there. He had a mask on. He was completely covered. Having a mask right before the pandemic, though, so that was actually really hard, the transition for me, because I had a little bit of leftover PTSD from masks and stuff. But yeah, so my conclusion from that was that, and I only had a couple $100. I had to give him the money, but. Like, of course, that's my hard-earned money, but he kind of needed it. I could tell he needed it. I mean, no one holds anyone up for gunpoint because they're bored. I mean, I don't think. And so it just kind of hit me that I was like, there's trash. Our trash is coming up here, and he needs to hold me up for cash. There's something needs to happen. Like I can go back home and actually do something. Like whether it's just pick up trash or whether it's just like, start to like create awareness. But like, I don't want to get to a point where people are holding people up at gunpoint because we're all we are doing is floating in trash, and even though we kind of already are at that point, like there's a lot of garbage everywhere. And I know it's gotten worse since like we thought that like the pandemic was actually going to like even us out and stuff. But then the trash kind of like just grew exponentially. And, so it was my way of, I think, healing from the trauma of being held at gunpoint, and like really, because in my head I was like, I'm gonna fight him, and I did all these like jujitsu moves that I don't know, and then all of a sudden he shoots me in the stomach. Yeah. Like I imagined all of these things as I'm literally standing there frozen screaming, like belting out that I've never screamed ever in my life, and I was like, oh, okay, we need to put this energy somewhere. So that's why. So then I.
So that traumatic event triggered you to go. Bad use of words for me, but is what what directed you into this thought of going in and making a difference in the environment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I just felt like that was because I'm trying to encourage people that like you just do what you can do, right? Like some people are nurses and they're helping people that way, right? I mean, granted, a nurse is way more qualified than me at anything, but they're nurses. Some people are paddling for cancer. Like I felt like I could stop, pick up trash, and actually, and that was something that I could manage, right? And then I was trying to be zero waste and limit, lighten my footprint as well. So it was just something that I could do that wasn't going to completely overhaul my life, even though it kind of did.
Wow. Well, let's talk about that. So that was in 19
in
reaction to this situation. So what did you do? You started just personally, just you as a person started picking up trash. That was your step one, maybe? You just came back and you're like, I'm going to pick up trash? Because it's evolved from that. So I'm just wondering where it started to bring it to where it is today.
Yeah. Well, we were training for Maui to Molokai and Molokai to Oahu, and so we were fundraising, and so I had created the Trash Tramp, which is where the name comes from, but it's the device that goes on in between my yakos that allowed me to pick up trash as I was training, and then keep
so
going.
So is tramp a play on words from like a little like trampoline little thing, like where you made like a little
like a sailing tramp,
like like a what's the word I'm looking for, like a hammock of sorts between on your outrigger.
Yeah.
Okay. Because instead of filling your cockpit
Yeah.
with stuff, you made this little sling.
Yeah, because we would
Gotcha.
be paddling, and the footwells were full, the back was full. It was like so much garbage, you have to stop paddling.
But you jumped over a bit. So you came back.
I
Prior to
jumped.
that, you were paddling, you'd see something floating and you'd paddle by it, like most of us probably
Yeah.
do. You came back and you flipped and you're like, I'm going to stop and pick up everything I see, the majority of stuff I see, or if it's like, talk a little bit more about what did you decide you were going to do? When you came back, you're like, I'm going to pick up trash only when I'm paddling. I'm going to pick up trash when I'm walking. Like, what did you made a decision. What was it?
Yeah.
Do you recall?
Well, I think we were already picking up trash before I left. It just wasn't like, it didn't seem dire. And maybe Kari could correct me on that. But, because she did a ton also. So I think we were picking up trash. But then when I came back, it was more just that I was like, I have to do something. And so, yeah, I was picking up trash on the land, in the water. Like people would leave shopping carts out, because I live in Marine Del Rey, so there's like shopping carts and stuff. And someone left a shopping cart right outside the Marriott as I was walking back from practice one day. And I saw it before I went to practice, empty. And as I came back from practice, I saw it was more full of garbage, and I watched someone literally throw something in it, like they were treating it like a trash can. So I just took it and I wheeled it across the street, just like looking like a goofball, and actually got honked at because I was crossing the crosswalk and someone didn't like how slow I was going, and they probably thought I was an unhoused person, so they just thought they could honk at me, which is like, special in its way, but. But
Yeah.
so then I just took that to my dumpster behind and I threw it out. But it was just like, oh, like we're just throwing things wherever. Like, we're not thinking about where we're throwing our garbage. Those people aren't mean. They're just like, oh, okay, that's where that trash goes.
So let me ask you, and it's early in the whole trash discussion, so there's going to be more, but what's your personal, not outlook on global trash, but if you see someone litter, or if you see trash, it's always been a pet peeve of mine. Like, people that throw trash out of car windows or leave it in the parking lot, it drives me crazy. And like it riles me up.
Yeah.
Do you have that, or are you kind of more on the passive side where you're like, I'm just doing good. This is part of the world that needs improvement and I'm going to help improve it?
Yeah. I don't see people littering, I think, as much as I would expect, considering how much trash there is. But it doesn't really anger me, because I feel like I know that they're not doing it in spite of me, or like they're not doing it to
It's
like.
not a personal attack.
Yeah, right. It's not like a mean thing. It's just kind of like we're just conditioned to be like, this is no longer mine. I'm done with it.
Ugh.
And then it's like, there it goes. And so it's like, and I'm trying to be really respectful of people, because like, if you have like, I did a cleanup on the side of the road on the I-5 a few years back, and I was just like tons of like baby diapers, right? And I was like, oh, well, like parents are tired, like they got a lot going on, they're not always in their right mind when they're dealing with a screaming baby. It's like you're driving, the baby's crying, and like you're just like, this is not mine anymore, and so it's like, I don't know. So I don't want to judge like
you
how.
have a much nicer outlook on people and people that throw things out windows and leave stuff in parking lots than I do. I think that they're doing it 100% intentionally. They know what they're doing. They've made a decision, and they've decided that they're too lazy. They're just going to throw it out. Instead of taking the 20 steps to the trash can, they're just going to throw it out the window or drop it out when they like. I appreciate your view of it, because it can allow you to keep doing it with probably happiness and feel like you're making a difference. And I don't know if I could to the same degree.
Yeah.
Like, I give you big props for that, because you can see it gets me going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
kudos to you on that.
I've had people throw trash at me,
perfect.
so that's, but that wasn't because I was picking up trash. I've had like, guys throw a beer bottle out the window at you or something. I grew up in a college town, so, weird stuff happens.
My kids go there. Is that still happening? That makes me a little nervous.
No.
I know. I actually know too much about Eugene. I know what goes on there. I love that town. 75%, 25% I'm not as fond of. There's some stuff there that's a little unsavory, unfortunately. I think But we can talk. But I think in the world, there's
Eugene, Oregon, visit it.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic school. We're blessed my kids are there. But like, there's a pendulum in everything in life, right? There's a pendulum in politics. There's a pendulum in feminism. There's a pendulum in everything. And hopefully trash, you get to a certain point in the environment, we better figure it out and get the pendulum going the other direction, right?
Right. For
everybody's good. But I digress. So, all right, so you're picking up trash with your training partner while you're training really hard. I had a question with that with regard to paddling. We'll get more into that too. If you're training hard, it's one thing if you're on a paddle, but if you're training hard, you're on a piece or you're going really hard and you see a piece of trash, are there times that you're like, I can't get that right now?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if it's too big, I have to just give it up.
But if you're on a sprint, an interval sprint, you're going super hard or something, and there's something floating 6 feet away from you as you're going by it, will you pivot, or you're like, maybe I'll get that later? You can't get everything, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's my question. You can't do everything.
You can't. No. And I had to. That was really hard for me, actually. That was a point where I had to decide. Like, I was getting too into the zero waste thing in my own life, and then I was also picking up too much trash. I was like, I can't make it down the beach to do my run. I can't finish this workout. So now if I'm paddling, it's like if I'm racing, or if I'm like in a short sort of sprint, like you're saying, if it's right there and I could grab it and put it in, cool. But otherwise, I have to just say that, like, I can't get everything.
Can't get everything.
It's unreasonable. My tiny canoe, I'm already like, it's nominal to begin with. Like, I'm not like, my purpose out there isn't actually thousands and thousands of pounds or millions of pounds. It's just kind of like to share that, like,
to do what you
this
can.
is a thing,
Yeah. You talked about zero waste. Can you explain, what zero waste is and what it entails? Because it's awfully hard, from my understanding, if you really look at what it would take to go zero waste. And then is that something you still focus on, or you try to, like, talk about zero waste in your world?
Yeah, it's a pipe dream, I think, because I think ultimately we'd have to go way back to before anything to really be zero waste, because it's a cycle, right? I mean, like, humans in essence do create waste, and that's that. I mean, at this point, zero waste is just kind of like it's yoga. It's the path there, right? So you can't be perfect.
But that's the distinction, right? It's the path.
Yeah.
Zero waste is the path. But you'll never get 100%
There's no
there.
end game.
But
yeah.
Any improvement's good improvement, right?
Yeah.
Incremental improvement is the name of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. So being zero waste for me is like just like putting in that effort to bring less trash. So when I'm trying to tell people, like, be a zero waste racer or something, like, it doesn't seem manageable, but it's like just bring your own stuff, which we do a pretty good job of. Paddlers, we already have like a lot of gear that we just bring, right? So it's just like, have your own cups, have your own silverware, a little pack, it's like you can have a little bag that's this big that has the stuff that you use reusable, so you can just say no thank you to whatever vendor has a single-use thing that won't compost in nature, and then of course you can take it further, if you want to compost at home, if you want to buy stuff in bulk. There's a lot of things that you can do to be zero waste, but yeah, ultimately you're not going to be zero waste.
No, but you can get.
If you live in a house,
we can all get closer. Right?
Yeah. And if we all do like a little bit together, it's way more reasonable than like, one person being zero waste is like, cool.
Right.
Like that doesn't help us really.
It's hard. I mean, and I think you and I may have touched on this at one point, but like, the industry makes it hard. The stuff I sell in our stores, customers need the stuff that we sell, and we're super grateful for that. But the manufacturers have choices, but that's a price. Like, everything is difficult going up or down up the stream.
Right.
And until everybody kind of adopts some of those mindsets and those options, it's really, really hard. And there's a lot out there, but getting that mainstreamed is really challenging. And it's kudos to those that do. Yeah. But it's not easy, huh?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's all of our corporations make it really hard for us. I mean, and it's not their fault necessarily. Some of it is some of their faults. But, like the plastics industry has put a really big emphasis into like our consumer responsibility to recycle. And it's like, but hold on a minute. Like, why aren't you helping with this? Like, why are you putting all of this on us when all we are is the person trying to buy the cheapest thing possible so that we can support our families, whereas you're creating and making a really large profit off of these single-use items that are polluting our planet, and you want us to feel responsible for that. Like, you guys can actually come in and say, like, bring it back to us, because I mean, if 6% of our plastic is being recycled right now, and
is that right? 6%?
6%, because there's no, it's where the money goes, right? And so there's no money in it. It's still really cheap to create virgin plastic.
Yeah.
And and we're creating, the number that I looked at recently was we're creating 400 million metric tons of plastic worldwide a year. So
say that number again.
400 million metric tons.
400 million metric tons a year.
Google it. Yeah.
That's a staggering number. And think of all the resources it takes, and talk about carbon footprints just to manufacture that. And then there are so many pieces of it. It can get super overwhelming, but we'll bring it back to what people can do is what you do. So let's talk about, like, as an example, we had the Wild Buffalo Relay race from Catalina to Newport just this past weekend, and you're a
Trash Tramp was a sponsor.
Okay.
in like trade and labor. And
but
stuff,
talk about what Trash Tramp does as part of it, because it's a big, when you get the race packet for that event, there's multiple pages about exactly what you're doing and exactly what we're talking about, which is limiting your footprint. Can you talk about what you do? Because this is just one of many examples of what you do for events like this, where you're helping share the message and educate, inform, whatever. Can you talk about what role you play?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I do want to say it's the Phuket Designs Wild Buffalo Relay, and Kelly did an amazing job this weekend. The whole
Kelly's
team,
been on this podcast, Will, once before.
Yeah. And the whole team just, pulling out amazing
It was awesome.
stuff.
And Mother Nature came to help on Sunday as
sunshine,
well.
you raced.
I did.
You raced, yeah.
I did.
And then Maddie, who does brilliant artwork.
Spoto?
Maddie Spoto. She creates a lot of stuff, but she basically designed the pretty sheets that you're talking about.
They're awesome.
And so she just talks to me about what to add and stuff. And she's doing a lot of zero waste stuff too. So basically, it's about education first, right? You have to kind of like encourage and educate people on what it means to be to lighten your footprint, right? So the first step is like, how can you be a zero waste racer? And it's like BYO, bring your own reusables, and then it's like, carpool and the simple things that you would think, but just kind of encouraging that. And then it's like how to be a zero waste boater, like a motor boater, right? That's fun to say.
I wasn't going to giggle. You opened the door.
But how that's hard, because that's it's not like a sailor where you can just sail if you don't want to use gas. But if you have a motorboat, you have stuff that can come out of the engine that can pollute the waters and stuff. So it's like how to make sure that you're limiting what you put off into the environment. Like carrying rags on board to make sure you soak up any sort of oil. Using eco-friendly products, and there's a wide range of those now, And then if you're escorting people, you have water jugs, you have refillable stuff instead of the single-use cases. And we did a good job of that this race, because each 5-gallon jug is replacing about 38 single-use plastic water bottles.
That's awesome.
So that's a benefit.
Yeah, it really. Puts under a magnifying glass when you go to an island, whether it's Catalina or any of the Hawaiian Islands or Roatan, everything has to get shipped in. Every bit of plastic, none of it was developed there. So all the plastic, all the stuff, that's all shipped in. And then hypothetically, it has to be shipped out to be recycled or
burned.
And so you think about all of those touches. I mean, our store in Kauai, everything, it takes so much to get stuff there, and then it's impossible to get it off the island. So you really, when you start to connect the dots, you really start to understand the implications of all of this mass production, single-use stuff. Especially watch on a windy day. Watch how much just crap blows, and a lot of it ends up in the ocean, right? So, well, listen, I want to give you huge kudos. It was really cool, time and time again, when you and Trash Tramp both instruct and inform, but you also lead hikes and talk about when you're doing that stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, so I'm trying to hit all of the areas, because it is it's such a broad topic, right? I mean, it really is like, what can you do as yourself individually, but then like, what can you do to like keep spreading awareness and education? So we do the hikes and we pick up trash. And a lot of people are doing that in a lot of different places around the world. Like they're doing trash hikes and walks and stuff. And it's really becoming like, just like it's our responsibility to recycle, it's becoming our responsibility to pick up the trash, you know? So humans are doing a lot of the trash picking. And so when we did the hikes this weekend, we talk about the native things on the island, like the plants, and we had Cressida from the Catalina Conservancy, who's an expert in that stuff. And then I did some trivia with the trash, with plastic and stuff, and give some awards and stuff. But then you pick the trash. We ended up picking up over the weekend 75 pounds of trash, and then you kind of lay it out and sort it. And then you go through and you tally up like what of each product, what you have, and Five Gyres has an app called Trash Blitz. And you go in and you'd be like, okay, how many cigarette butts did we pick up? And you'll say cigarette butts, and you put like 20. And then like how many Pepsi plastic bottles? 10. How many Coke cans? 7. And you go through and you do that, and then that helps them. Five Gyres is a nonprofit organization that is helping prevent plastic pollution through science and adventure. I think I may have said that right.
Sounds really cool.
But yeah, they're great. I'm an ambassador for them. But you enter that into their app, their Trash Blitz app, and then it goes and it helps them create data, which is then going to help create policy change, which is why some places in California now you can't. They're reducing the single use that they're allowing people to use in stores, and then there's also like those little microbeads that people used to wash their face with, the face scrubs and stuff. They were like. They found out that those were plastic.
Oh, that's a microplastic?
Yeah, it was a microplastic, and it was infiltrating in like one of the Great Lakes. And so Five Gyres and some other nonprofits were behind finding out the data behind that, and then so that's no longer legal to put that into. Because I don't know why you need to put plastic on your face. Like that's right. Not. So
can't be that good.
Yeah. So then that's a really important. So the trash picking, we're not big enough yet to reduce our footprint by picking up trash. It's more about the communication and the education that comes from that, and I think then the data, because there's millions of pounds of trash being created annually, so we can't really keep up with that. We have to stop it at the source, and so the trash picking is just I think part of it.
Yeah.
And then the final thing that we do at the event, actual event, is to make sure that you've sorted your trash. So like separate from the trash hike, like we create trash at events. Like, you got beer cups, you got paper plates, you got all the regular garbage that you have at a party. And so you have 3 bins. You do the trash, the compost, and the recycle. And then just making sure those get sorted properly is part of reducing your footprint also. And I think that that's a really important way to do it, because it's a big impact, and you can reach people. There's like a few hundred people at the party on Sunday in Newport, and we diverted 81% of our waste, which actually is technically a zero waste event. They're saying 80% or more.
Is that right? 80% is kind of the threshold?
Yeah.
Well, let me just say, so you're talking about the after party for the Wild Buffalo Relay at the Newport Aquatic Center, and I watched you working your ass off. Like, you were sorting, you were making sure that people sort. Like, you didn't stop on the island. You didn't stop. Like, again, going back to that 14-year-old janitor. Like, you really haven't stopped doing that, cleaning up after other people or helping them help themselves, I guess, to some degree. Yeah,
because I mean, we're so conditioned to just throw in any bin. Just throw it in a bin, and it's like. There was a guy that like threw. I was literally in the trash, like pulling out stuff and moving, and he threw a can right past me, and he threw the can into the compost, and I was like, "Hey, can I show you which one this should go in?" So it's like we're not there. He's not mad at me. He didn't throw the can because he doesn't like me. He just wasn't paying attention, and that's totally cool. It's just like we're slowly figuring it out.
This is a personal question that's not personal, but. I'm often confused by what goes in what bin. Like, is this plastic really allowed to go in that plastic recycling bin, or does this plastic not count? Like, how do you get educated on that? Like, I feel like I really try.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not smart enough to figure it out.
No,
sometimes.
It's not. You're super smart. It's not about that.
My wife would challenge you on that one.
They make it hard because So there's the chasing arrow signs that have the numbers 1 through 7, right, on the plastics. And recycling depends on your county and what they'll take. And 1 through 7, they're not all recyclable. It's generally 1 through 2 are like kind of the most common that could be recycled, but not necessarily guaranteed. And then, so that means like what, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are all trash. There's special companies now that are trying to change that, and there's like some take back programs, and there's some like, you know, they do their drives or like turning the plastic bags, and they'll do this, but it's not always like.
See, I always find myself wanting to, like, this needs to go in the recycling bin.
Right. That's wish recycling.
I think I do a fair bit of wish recycling. Yeah. Like, it should go in there. It should be recycled. And then it's going to get wherever it goes, and it's going to get processed right into landfill, right? I mean, that's what you're saying is the majority of those things that won't be taken by a county, it's just going to, it's plastic, and it should be recycled. It's going to end up in the landfill.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. hopefully it ends up in the landfill and not like back in
the ocean,
in the ocean,
right.
or being shipped somewhere else. You know.
Yeah, got it. What's the end game with Trash Tramp? Is it still just is it educate? Is it continuing to educate people this way? Like, is it to inspire, educate? Like, what's the ultimate?
Yeah, I think it's education, communication, and just helping to lighten our footprints on the planet. I mean, I do want to eventually get making some more trash tramps, but I'm not a seamstress, even though I decided I was going to sew something. So that's kind of a work in progress.
Got it. Well, if you can figure out how to make something for a surf ski, because I paddle past stuff all the time, and I'm like, you know, where am I going to put it? You need a little pop-up, like something that opens up out of the bow. Or how about a hat that I can just put it on?
You got a little basketball hoop that you can just shoot it into.
That would be cool. Well, one more thing on trash, and then we're moving over to paddling. So on the trash side, it's not just small trash that you do. Like, you do some big, like, I've seen videos of you doing, like, I think you're doing like a creek or a dock or something. What do you do on these big scale ones? Yeah,
so there's in Oregon, there's a creek that is blocked up with styrofoam and docks and stuff. And so I've been trying to like get the styrofoam out of there. And the styrofoam is like, they're like 3 or 4 foot long pieces of styrofoam that are like waterlogged and got dirt and you know, so they're super heavy. Nobody wants them. I mean, I've called many places to see if can you recycle, because some places can recycle styrofoam. And it's not really like the best option, but nobody wants them. So I'm slowly kind of like trying to take them out of there. I have one person who's taking some, and then mostly it's going to the dump. But it's you know, creeks they're like our veins, our arteries. You know, they need to be clear, and the fish swim up them, and water filters through, and so there's styrofoam, which is actually, you know, it's a toxin. It's not healthy for us. We don't want to swim in styrofoam goo, and then of course the docks are treated, and the treated chemicals in the docks aren't good for nature and stuff. So I'd like to clear out the creek and
good for you.
Let the water flow.
And you're not afraid of hard work, because you're doing all that on your own.
Yeah, no, I mean there's some friends that are helping. It's like in between, but I'm fiercely independent, and sometimes I just need to go off on my own and do something that seems like I shouldn't or I couldn't, and then get it done so that I can feel better.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with that. A big accomplishment is always a good thing. Good for you.
Thanks.
Again, thank you for all the trash stuff, the education, the information, the leadership, the guidance. It's awesome. And the mindset that you have around it is really impressive. Again, I would be the grumpy guy, and so you're like really like positive, and I think you understand what it takes to inspire other people. It's like, it's got to be a positive thing. If it's all grumpy and negative and fear-based, like, people aren't going to want to spend any time with you hiking and picking up trash, right?
Yeah.
Got it. So it's better than
I
it's
just
you
yell at everyone.
Right? No. Kudos to you. Really, really cool.
Thank
and I love that passion. So that takes us to paddling. And this isn't a paddle podcast, but clearly you've talked about it, and you're an ambassador for Puakea, which is one of the premier boat builders. Talk about paddling. Like, what got you into it? You said you were always an athlete. You found you were always paddling something in Oregon. When did you find outrigger paddling? And what does that look like over the last, I think you said like 10 years?
Yeah. I've always paddled anything. That was kind of my jam, is that like, I kind of thought, I should be able to paddle anything with anything. So like a 2x4, you know, like in a dock that I found, like, or just like, or my dad's windsurf board that doesn't have a sail anymore. I would use a kayak paddle to stand up. You know, just like anything I could find that was fun, because we just kind of like acquire things. You know, people share stuff and bring them and drop them off. We never really like had, oh, that's my boat, or that's, you know, that's what I'm going to paddle. So I just kind of grew up doing that. And then, I moved to California, wasn't doing anything but working. I was stand-up paddling a little bit for fun. I made my own stand-up paddleboard, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I did like 15 years ago, maybe. A friend of mine was making one, and he's like, you want to make one with me? And I was like, sure. So I ended up making mine, and I call her Pink Thunder. She's a real big pink board.
They were big boards back then.
Yeah, it's a big board. I made it big enough because I was like, I want to be able to put a cooler on it. I want to be able to paddle to Catalina, because my dream was like, my brother and I had talked about paddling to Catalina. Oh. And he hasn't done it yet, but that's okay. He will probably.
You'll get him across.
He probably will eventually. But so it was always kind of like my dream to do that. And then I moved from Malibu. I was just staying there in a guest room for a little bit. I moved from Malibu to Marina Del Rey, and I didn't have racks on my car, and I had a kayak that was like one of those yellow yellow plastic kayaks.
Blown plastic ones, yeah.
And I didn't know how to get it to Marina Del Rey, so I just was like, I'll paddle it from Malibu to Marina Del Rey. And my friend, who I'm going to see after this, actually.
Hold on, stop. You have a kayak.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to get it. How far? How far is it from?
From Point Dume to Marina Del Rey.
Guess
so
miles.
About 20 something miles.
I don't know how to get it there. I'm just going to paddle it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going. How did that go?
It was great. I mean, it had a hole in it that I didn't know it had. Mm-hmm. And so when I got to Tivoli Cove, actually, I was like pretty deep underwater. It didn't sink, but it was underwater. And I was like, oh no. So I paddled in as fast as I could. And I had like a credit card with me, right? Because I wasn't like silly, but
just paddling a plastic boat 20 miles upwind.
Yeah. So I picked up trash off the beach, shoved it in the hole, and then I was like, oh, what else can I use? And I was like, oh, there's a gas station across the street. I'm gonna run over there and buy something. So I found a tire, like a bike tire patch kit, and so I just shoved that in there, and then put more trash in it, and then kept going. And it worked. I mean, it was fine. So I made it to Marina Del Rey, and I told my friend who was living on her boat at the time, I was like, hey, I'll be there around this time. She thought I was just paddling from around the other side of the marina. And when I got there, she was like, why do you look so tired? I was like, I just came from Malibu. And she was like, what? So that was kind of fun. But that was...
I almost don't have words. Like, it's either the smartest thing or the dumbest thing, but it's the coolest thing. Like,
I didn't have any other way to get it there, and I was like, I wasn't.
You know what? There's always another way, but most people would call somebody with a car that has racks.
Yeah.
Or come up with some other solution. Most people
that's the like
would not.
Fiercely independent part.
This is that 99% of kids would go with the lifeguard job and not the the janitor role.
Yeah.
All right. 99 people would figure out another way, and gets on her boat and paddles.
Yeah, like smart people say, paddle smart, not hard. I'm just gonna paddle hard.
I resemble that comment. I get that.
Yeah.
First thing.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then I think I got sidetracked.
So you make it to Marina Del Rey.
Yeah, I made it to Marina Del Rey.
And you're like,
and then
this
paddling.
This is a really slow boat. Look at all these people in these really fast boats.
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah. No, my friend was dragon boating in Portland. And so then I was Googling dragon boat in Marina Del Rey, and I was like, no, I don't want a dragon boat. And I saw outrigger, and I was like, oh my God. And I saw people were like crossing oceans, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, that's it. I got to do that. So I looked up Marina Del Rey Outrigger Canoe Club. I was like looking at the board of directors, and I went for a run the next morning, and I saw a lady with a paddle in her backpack. And I was like, hey, do you paddle? Hey. And she turns around and chats with me for a little bit, and she's like, my name's Charlotte. And I was like, oh, you're the vice president of the canoe club. And she was like, how'd you know that?
Creepy.
So then from then, I just was like hooked.
Got it. So you started on 6-man.
Uh-huh, yep.
And and then at some point, probably not very far after, you got into 1-man.
Yeah, then I bought from her, I shared with her kaku? Herkaku, one of
So one of the early
Johnny's
boats.
first OC ones.
I had one of those.
Yeah. I shared with her Herkaku, and then she stopped paddling, and then I acquired it from her. And then one time my coach was like, "Do you want to race?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he's like, "Well, you probably need a new boat." And I was like, No, this is fine. My boat takes on water. It's like heavy. Like it was like, I was like, it still floats. It's fine. He's like, "Yeah, but you won't be competitive." And I was like, oh, and then I had to like switch gears because I was used to paddling anything. I'm like, I should be able to paddle a 2x4 and this boat.
The
that's
old
sinking.
mindset was still there.
Yeah.
Got it.
So then I switched and I got a kahele. And then
And the rest is history?
the rest is history.
So tell me about you've done some big paddles. Tell us about some of the more notable paddles you've done, or the things, maybe your favorite paddle, but like, woo.
That's my ride.
I guess so. They were waiting for you. You've done some big ones. I don't know if those are your favorite ones, but talk about some of the, like, I think you're a long distance, you love long distance stuff. Is that what I pick up on?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still mid distance. I mean, there's some long distances that I like would love to do and I hope to do. Like, the longest I think I've done at one point is like 100. So.
Hold on.
Oh no, longest one point is 80. But I.
That's all.
Yeah.
80-mile paddle.
But there's people who do 340 and 620 and
yes, but not many.
So yeah. But I would like to be that. I'd like to do that. I strive to do more.
So the 80-miler, what was that?
Yeah, so that was the Crossing for Cystic Fibrosis,
Awesome.
which is an amazing race. It's actually really more a stand-up paddle race. And it goes from Bimini, Bahamas to Lake Worth, Florida. And it is a fundraiser for cystic fibrosis. And I forget the name of the nonprofit. But anyways, it's a beautiful race across the Gulf Stream. If you do it right, you can pick up the current and just cruise. I did it in 2000. It must have been 2021, right after the pandemic, and I did it with April and Jamie. And we did
Two incredible paddlers.
Two great paddlers, awesome paddlers. We kind of made the decision to paddle together. We were all in our single OC1s.
So all solo, but you stayed together for
Yeah.
the entirety of the 80 miles.
Yeah. So yeah, and it was cool. I mean, it was we started midnight, and it's dark. A squall just came through, so it was like pouring rain and everything. And we go in like the dark, and we start off the beach, and it was just like so beautiful. And then like you go through the night, and then all of a sudden the sun rises, and you're in the middle of the Gulf, and it's like we're surfing with like this pink red sunrise. I was like, this is literally the most
Like heaven,
beautiful.
right?
Like, yeah, it was amazing.
As good as it gets.
Yeah.
But 80 miles, how long did that take you? Do you recall?
I think it took us 12. I think it was 12 hours.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long day.
Yeah, we went off course slightly, and then having to kind of fight the wind and the current going up, but we were all three together, and we finished
so
strong.
great.
And then we get out, and they grab our boats, and we like held hands crossing the finish line. It was really fun.
Good for you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's twice of my longest. I've done a couple 40s. I've never done anything more than that. So to do 80, I'm just trying to like think how that would feel. Good. It's incredible.
I mean,
Kudos.
it's tiring. It hurts.
Yeah. Well, of course.
Yeah.
40 hurts.
You could do it.
Well,
You've done 40. You could do 80.
yeah,
Just keep going.
That's like saying you've done 2, you can do 30. Yeah, it's like a marathon. The race really starts at 20.
Yeah.
It's that last 6 are the hard ones. 40? Yeah.
Yeah,
80?
it's really that last like 3 miles is where you're like, this is the longest 3 miles I've ever
Yeah.
done.
Well, that was this week coming across we had a dumping tide at the end of the Buffalo race. So coming up, yeah. Yes, I understand that feeling.
Yeah.
It's the long 4 miles. What's next? What's next paddle-wise? Do you have any big goals ahead of you?
Yeah, I really want to paddle all of Puget Sound. I did the 70-48 race 2 years ago, and that is Tacoma, Washington to Port Townsend. So it's 70 miles through Puget Sound. It's kind of like the main channel, but there's so many other like inlets and canals and parts of Puget Sound. It's really huge and massive and just beautiful. And last year I did the Salish 100, which is it was for small sailboats, but it's a cruise, and they did like 100 miles over like 7 days. And so I did that with a friend. She was on stand up and I was on OC1, and we just, we cruise along. We're faster than sailboats because they're like dependent on the wind, and we're just like cruising. But so that was ended up doing about 130 miles for that.
Over what period of time?
Well, that was like 7 days.
That's
we
so
paddle
great,
camp.
How fun is that?
Yeah, it was
That's
amazing.
awesome.
So that like got me hungry, and now I'm like, I really want to do all of Puget Sound.
Okay, what would that entail? How far is all the way around the Puget Sound?
Well, it's like 13,000 miles if you walk the perimeter.
You're gonna be busy.
But I'm not gonna do that. No. I'm not. I'm gonna. My plan is to hit the majority of it, so it'll be a few hundred miles. But I'm working on my plan right now and how feasible it is. But yeah,
that's incredible. I can't wait to hear how that goes. I mean, having a good goal like that has got to be pretty. I mean, that's daunting, but really, really exciting.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thanks.
What else is next for you? You've got a lot. You juggle a lot of things, and it seems like that's the way you enjoy it. Like, what else is on the?
Yeah. Well, our Scora season is starting, which you're part of Scora.
Scora is
Southern California Outrigger Racing Association, and it is the greater paddle organization that umbrellas all of the paddle clubs within Southern California. So from Santa Barbara down to San Diego.
And you have a role in that.
Yeah. After I was held up at gunpoint and came back from
gosh.
Roatan, part of my like being fired up is I went and I spoke to the board at their January meeting, and asked them if we could, start to take steps to reduce our footprint at races and within the paddle community, and they were into it. It was nice. I was very nervous. I gave a speech. I brought a jar of plastic and I shook it at them, and and then we formed the environmental committee, and it's just been a thing since then that we're like slowly, making baby steps. But last year, we hired the Zero Waste Company to help sort our trash at all of our races, which was huge because we diverted a lot of trash. This year, I'm working on trying to do that again. We have a couple clubs that are going to do it themselves, which is a huge ask. It's a big responsibility to race and then sort trash. And I think that they're I want to help them, but it's awesome. It's awesome that they want to do that. And then we're also going to bring in the Zero Waste Company for some other clubs as well. So we're gonna work on reducing our impact for our races.
Good for you. And I think you did that in your production world as well, right? Didn't you do kind of the same thing? You went to them and you're like, hey, can we be more environmentally friendly on set? And they said yes, right? Is that what I saw?
Yeah. So before the pandemic, I spoke with a production company that I work with a lot, and they're a great company. And I just was like, can we hire a company to assist us in this? And so it was a lot of communication of like, I have to tell the crew members, because even back before the pandemic, it was still kind of unheard of. Like that was a little bit of a weird thing, telling the crew members to bring their own reusable water bottles, because we're so used to just going to the cooler and grabbing a single use and throwing it and leaving it wherever. So yeah, that was cool. They were really on board for that, and we reduced some waste because production is wasteful.
Yeah.
I mean, you basically in essence you can create a whole house with, with props and wardrobe, and then you have the food in the single use stuff, and all that stuff in the past just goes to the trash, and now there's companies like EcoSets that are gathering the leftover stuff, whether it's the builds, the props, and they're keeping that so that people can reuse them, or they're finding ways to recycle them, and also in encouraging the caterers to have food delivered to people who are hungry, as opposed to that just going in the garbage, there's so many different ways that you can be less wasteful. And one of the greatest ones is here in California is not to waste your food, because we have so many unhoused people and hungry people, So So working on that, and it's now I'm an ambassador for Green the Bid, which is a nonprofit that is working within the film TV industry to be zero waste on set, and to just encourage that, and to, within the bid budget, you have a line item that's for the zero waste or for the environmental services, because you have a trash line item, but it's like, that's not enough. Like, you should have like a little bit more in there so that you're not just throwing everything in the dumpster next door.
Well, listen, between Scora and on set, helping people see this opportunity to do better, and make it part of their operation is a huge win. So congratulations. I know maybe it doesn't feel huge, but picking up a piece of trash is important. But when you can influence organizations to think differently, and then when you can go to an event like the Wild Buffalo and help everybody think differently, it's an incredible thing that you're doing. So thank you for that. It's really cool.
Thank you.
It's really,
Thanks.
really cool.
Well, it's nice to be in the community that's willing to, kind of let Trash Tramp run in and be like, I got the garbage.
But you're seeing it in both communities, both at work
Yeah.
and in your place of passion. Let me ask you this. If you had a magic wand or a final thing that you could say to people about trash or what they can do, it could be either one. Like, is there a message or an ask?
Yeah, I mean, I should have something super clever to say.
No.
It would just be, it's not your fault, but let's just do the best we can, and lighten your footprint. I mean, yeah.
No, I love that. I mean, again, you're way nicer than me. I would have said, pick up your fucking trash. Come on. But you're like, hey, it's not, I love that. So well said. Say, where can people find you? There's all these things. You mentioned a bunch of them, and we can put them up. But where can they find? If they want to go, I want to find out more about what she's doing or about Trash Tramp. Like, where can we find you?
Yeah, my Instagram is @saysayer, because I'm not a naysayer. I'm a saysayer. And then I have @the Trash Tramp. I also have @KSarah Films, but mostly it's @saysayer and @the Trash Tramp. And then I also have a trashtramp.earth website. I need help with if anyone wants to help me with that.
Good to know. And I would imagine like Five Gyres and everything else you spoke about, they can find through your...
Yeah, Five Gyres, fivegyres.org. And definitely find them. I mean, they're outstanding, doing a lot of work. They have ambassadors all over the world. So they have, if you go to their website, you can see, I think I'm on the front page right now of the ambassador website, but they have people all over the world doing outstanding things. So it's definitely worth looking at them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, listen, I've said it a couple times. I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. I really appreciate you coming to do this because, again, this is another one of those things where if people are on Catalina this week and they saw a little bit of what you do, but they wouldn't have gotten the whole backstory, and I learned a ton today too. So thank you for your leadership and your guidance and your soft approach to helping people understand what they can do better and differently as opposed to me trying to do it with a hammer. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. This is a super cool podcast. It's nice of you to pull cool things out of people.
Well, this is the beauty. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, but I'm just a firm believer. You never know who's in the room. If people are paddling next to you or picking up trash on a hike, there's so much that we don't know about people sitting right next to us, and everybody's got a story, and that's what we're doing here today. So Thanks for being a part of it. I really appreciate it, Say.
When are we going to interview you?
Oh, well, we'll figure that out next.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.